This video is sponsored by Fuji X Weekly. Hello again, friends, and welcome to another video. Today is going to be another vloggy vlog style adventure as I take you with me to try to secure some photography. Although this time we will not be going out to rural America. We will be actually taking my children, 4 kids. Without the help of my wife, DENAE will get a chance to take some time off from being a mom as we go to a mountain bike race and camping. Now, one thing you need to know about the Andrew and DENAE family, we are not the most athletic people in the world, and so when we go to compete, it's just for fun. But we will have fun. We like biking as a family, and I'm excited for the opportunity to try to get some good photography. And along with that, I've got a toy to play with that was sent to me by some good friends at B&H Photo. If you are in the market for photography gear of the new variety, B&H, they're your place. And they have been kind enough to send me this for about a month to play with, and the first adventure that I'll be taking it out on, like I said, is our little camp out mountain bike race. And as you can see from the box label, it's the X-E4. I'm a little late to the game, which is par for the course these days. As you guys know, with the change of the direction of the channel, I now no longer feel any necessarily any drive to be the first to say anything about a camera. I honestly don't care. This is totally for me. I'm interested in this camera for myself. As you know, many of you we're down to 3 Fuji well, 4 if you count the GFX, but 3 Fuji cameras. DENAE uses the X100V, and I like the X100V a lot. I do enjoy it, but 35mm equivalent, it's not my focal length. As you guys know what my focal length is, a lot of you, and it's this right here, the 16mm focal length, or 24mm full frame equivalent. So I can never be 100% truly happy with just the X100V. I've got to have another camera, and so we're going to try this out. The thing I like about this is that it has the beautiful stylings of the X100V and the flippable screen. It has all that, but I can also swap out the lens, and that is what excites me about giving this a try. I've been wanting to try it out for a while, just haven't had time or the opportunity, so we may very well, at the end of the trial run with this from B&H, we might actually just buy it from them. Yeah, so here it is, my 16mm 1.4 on the X-E4, which is probably the marriage that would, this is how I would most likely, most of the time, be carrying this guy. And it's nice. Obviously the lens is pretty big, but the camera is small, and it feels good. First impressions. So it's a little weighted, heavy in the front. It's a lighter camera than you might expect for one so expensive, but personally, I don't give a lot of stock into what a lot of people say, oh, it's got to be weighted equally, you get a big lens on this small camera, and then, some people, I don't know. That doesn't bother me at all. I'm just excited to shoot with it. Interesting that it's got the lug style, whatever strap. Not sure I'm a fan of that, but so far, other than that, I do wish I had the one thing I do like about the X100V is the ISO button, the pull up, turn, push down ISO button style. I should bring that in here to show you what I'm talking about. Right here, this is what I'm talking about, where you can pop this, turn the ISO, pop it back into place. That's nice. With this, you're gonna have to set a dedicated button. It's not my favorite way to change ISO. I like a dedicated dial, so that's not as appealing to me about this camera. I really wish Fuji would have just added that pop-up dial. What else do I notice right off? X-E4 in the past, I can't remember, did they have a joystick? I think that they didn't. It was kind of the mode dial, X-E3, but this has got that nice little nubby joystick, which is nice. Anyway, I'll get this charged up and we'll get loaded up, ready to go do some camping and mountain biking and see what kind of photography we get. Oh, I forgot to mention my other lens. So of course, I'll bring this lens. The other lens for sports photography is the 50 to 140. And obviously these are large lenses. Question many of you will have is, can I shoot with large lenses on this little body? I mean, I can already tell you I think you can, but I'll tell you more after we've been shooting with it for a while. Yeah, let's get out of here. All right, welcome back, and I am excited about talking about this camera, but have to admit to you one thing: my lens is dirty. Well, that wasn't the thing I wanted to admit. The one thing I wanted to admit was that it's been about a month since I recorded that last. I don't even remember what I said about this camera, about going out to shoot with it. Something about, I think I unboxed it. I think I might have said that I was going to go do some stuff. I've ended up not being able to record a whole lot of video over the last month, but hopefully taken some good shots. I honestly don't know because I haven't had time to process them, but hopefully whatever you just saw was good, entertaining, but most importantly gave you an idea or a sense of what maybe this camera might be good for. But what I can say is, from the experience of shooting with this camera, is that it's been totally enjoyable. I've loved shooting with it. This camera is, I would say, near perfect for the type of photography that I like to do. And for many of you, I think you'll find the same thing, that this camera is close to perfect. But there's two perspectives I want to talk through, or two use cases. For those of you who are looking to this camera as your entry into Fuji, or maybe you've only shot with a couple really old or kind of the starter type cameras in Fuji's lineup. This is more on the pro end, and so you're kind of leveling up. I can't recommend this camera more. I really can't. I can't think of why you might be disappointed with it, because it is superb. It has the technology has come so far. It has the technology that has made the XT series, the X100 series, great and amazing. It's got that. It has that to offer you, but in a package that is so beautiful, compact and stylish, and a pleasure to use for the most part. It really is, in my mind, the X100V of the interchangeable lens world, almost, which is for me, if you know how I feel about the X100V, you know that's a big compliment, because that's one of my top 10 favorite cameras of all time. Actually, top 3 favorite cameras of all time. This is close to, I would say this does possibly make that top 10 cameras of all time list, for sure. So I can't think of a reason why someone newer to the Fuji system would be disappointed with this camera if your expectations for Fuji, I feel like, will be met with this. What you might find frustrating are small things such as like battery life, especially if you're coming from DSLR land, but you probably already knew that. The battery capacity of the X100, the X-E4, and most of the XE line, as well as all of the XE line and most of the XT line, X100 line, they use small capacity batteries, so that's shouldn't be a surprise to you. You'll need to buy a bunch of those, especially if you're shooting all day. You'll need to keep those topped off when you go out to shoot, and manage your batteries. Otherwise, you'll run into issues, which those of us who shot Fuji for a long time, we've all been there. It's happened to the best of us. It's a little bit of a minor inconvenience. But it's the price you pay for a small form factor. That's just physics. There's not like anything we can really do about that right now as far as more battery power without increasing the size of the camera. So aside from that, there's a lot to love. I love the amount of play that this flip out screen provides. You can even flip it up and see it from the front to a degree, which is pretty amazing. Without it being a fully articulating screen. This is about as good as it gets, and I love it. I think it's absolutely perfect for photographers. It balances everything well, and it doesn't have the articulating screen that a lot of photographers dislike who aren't hybrid video shooters or YouTube creators. This is great for you folks. And yeah, there's not a lot of critical things I have to say about it, other than the lack of 2 memory card slots. There's only 1 memory card slot, of course, with the kind of the lower end or even the upper mid end of the Fuji lineup. And this is no different, but I don't dislike that for the reasons that some, like the Northrops, don't like not having dual memory cards, because even on professional gigs, I've been known to only shoot with 1 memory card slot. And I'm not too concerned because the risk is pretty low. Sure, if you can, it's always better to back up. But the reason I shoot to 2 cards is actually because of color profiles. I love shooting JPEG and RAW. JPEG to 1 card, RAW to the other. And I love that because I can shoot in the color profiles that I've put a lot of work and time in over the years to develop. There are 3 profiles I love to use. I'm not going to talk about those in this video. It's a little out of scope, but I will in future video, talking about what the profiles are and how I've come to them. But what I will say is that I love to shoot JPEG and grab those color profiles straight out of camera, going straight to social media, straight to my mobile phone or whatever else in the colors that I already know that I love. And then when I get back to the computer, I can refine the RAW. That's usually how I do it. But I can't with this camera. I have to shoot to RAW. That's a minor inconvenience, because then if I want to convert to JPEG, I can still do it. Inside the camera, I can go in, convert it to JPEG profile that I like, export it to my phone, that sort of thing. But my preference is to just shoot to JPEG and RAW. But I can't with this camera. But that is a good transition into the sponsor of this video, who is Fuji X Weekly, and my friend Richie, who has helped me define profiles that I love. I owe a lot to him, I feel like. And he's got an app that is super helpful for use on the go. And as a sponsor of the video, I want to show you a little bit about that. Not just because, he's sponsoring the video, but because I'm a believer. I'm a big fan of Fuji X Weekly, and I know that it can unleash possibilities for you also to kind of be more creative, find a signature look. So let's talk about that. The Fuji X Weekly Film Simulation Recipes app is an excellent companion for Fuji shooters of all types. If you're looking for color inspiration or a different way to see the world around you, or if you're looking to define or refine a signature look, this app contains a library of over 150 different Fuji recipes you can try from anywhere. Find a link to the Fuji X Weekly Film Simulation Recipes for Apple and Android devices in the description below and start exploring your creativity today. So yeah, check that out in the link below, and thanks again Richie and Fuji X Weekly for sponsoring this video. We appreciate your support and love to be able to return that favor to you as well. So I said that there are two people or two perspectives that I would take giving you my feedback, or not my feedback, but my kind of analysis on this video, my light analysis. This isn't an in-depth review, of course. But what I think about it from the kind of the new to Fuji perspective, and now I want to talk about what it's like to shoot with this from a perspective of someone who's been around the block with Fuji. Someone who knows what Fuji has to offer, someone who has muscle memory surrounding how to use a Fuji device, and why this camera is not quite perfect for me. And that is really, I already mentioned the dual memory card thing as a negative, but there are two other things that are slight annoyances for me that makes this not quite the X-E series for the X100V, meaning an interchangeable lens version of the X100V, which is what I really want. I really want an X100V with either a 35mm Fuji lens or a 16mm Fuji lens. That would be so rad. But and that's what I wanted for this. You see that I've got the 16mm 1.4 on this lens, or in this camera. My favorite camera, or my favorite lens for Fuji. And that's what I want. This is the setup I want. I want a compact camera like the X100V with this lens, and that makes me a happy person. But there are a couple inconveniences that make it difficult for me. The first and most important is that this day and age, I feel like I'm a believer that ISO is now as viable, or maybe even more viable, than shutter speed and aperture as far as a viable option for changing exposure. Old school way of thinking, and I know a lot of you subscribe to this, so I hope I don't offend you by saying that I think of it differently, but I know a lot of you, and kind of the old school view is that ISO is something you set per session and you forget it. You don't change it, or you change it very rarely. It's the thing that kind of establishes a baseline. And that was important back in the day because ISO was set at the film stock level, and it's established a baseline of noise, really, of how much noise you were okay with vis-a-vis the available light to you. Nowadays, though, you can get away with really, really high ISOs with very minimal noise, and even if you do have noise, it's not too terrible or out of the question to be able to remove that in post-process if you don't like that noise. And so, man, it's to the point now where ISO is my preferred mechanism to manage my exposure, with shutter speed and aperture remaining largely fixed a lot of times in sessions. So the roles have kind of reversed for me, and I know for a lot of you. And if that's the case, if that's the way that people are shooting nowadays, that ISO needs a dedicated dial. It needs its own spot in the exposure triangle. But in Fujiland, aperture is huge and important, and it's right there on the lens where it should be, or where it makes sense to be. Shutter speed is also receives a very high placement. But on the X-E4 and a lot of the Fuji devices, ISO is not to be found by default on a dial. On the X100V, we get a pop-up dial to move, which I think is okay, that's tolerable. On the XT series, it's got a dedicated dial, which is ideal. In this case, you can set the command dial to be an ISO. Keep in mind there's no command dial on the back though, so that means you have to commit your ISO dial on the front to be ISO if you want a dedicated spot and not push a button to change it, which is what I want and what many of you want. So this becomes ISO, but then that means I can't use it to refine the shutter speed, because shutter speed is incremental. And then if you need to refine it, usually use the command dial, the front command dial, to do that. I wish there was a back command dial, and then that wouldn't cause me to have to lose my refinement for shutter speed to have an ISO dial. So there's somewhere you have to make a sacrifice. I just don't think it was completely necessary for Fuji to do that. If they'd given us just one more dial, command dial on the rear, if they'd given us that pop-up ISO dial, I know that would have increased the price a bit of the camera, but I feel like that was so crucial for this day and age, for the way that people are starting to shoot, for the new way of thinking about the exposure triangle, that ISO is a very important, if not in many cases more important, of a way of managing exposure. Especially for us documentarians who are in and out of light a lot, dark and shadowy and bright lights, like just being able to crank the ISO when you go into a dark scenario shooting from a light one, that's great. That's all I want. Or even shooting in an auto ISO situation, which actually if you shoot in an auto ISO, then you're using the exposure compensation dial, which is fine. Then this camera rocks and it's wonderful. The other thing that I find a minor irritation, just because of the muscle memory, again, this isn't going to matter as much to those of you who are coming to Fuji from somewhere else, but for me, there is no focus control dial on the front. And that's frustrating because I always want to do that. And I do change to AFC, AFS, or manual focus fairly often, surprisingly so. I mean, I notice how often I do it when I don't have it here and I have to thumb through a menu to get to it. That's less than ideal, but I could live without that. What I really miss is that ISO experience. But what I will say is that if you're a manual shooter, that lack of a dial becomes less of an issue, obviously, because you're manually focusing. So if you shoot with vintage lenses, man, this really is a great platform for that. Almost ideal. X Pro 3 is also excellent, but this is slightly more compact and minimal. And for some of you, it has the LCD screen that's more workable. A lot of you I know are going to hate that X Pro 3 dial. So this becomes a viable alternative to the X Pro 3 for those of you who want that street style kind of experience, minimal shooting experience. Man, I just wish it had an ISO dial. That's all I really want for it to be that viable substitute for the X100 series for me. So anyway, I think that's all I want to say about this camera. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got something out of it or was entertained in some way. And I hope you'll give Fuji X Weekly a shot. Go check them out, especially that app. And thanks again to them for sponsoring the video. Regardless of what you do, most importantly, do good with your cameras if you can. And that's it. Talk to you again real soon.